So we've got an outspoken Christian nationalist pastor from Idaho who has decided that he's going to expand eastward. He's already preaching at a church in Nashville that is regularly attended by Pete Hegseth, and he is going to open an additional church in Washington, D.C., and he is also connected to Project 2025 co-author Russ Vought, who wrote Chapter 2 on consolidating executive power and is currently Donald Trump's Director of Office and Management and Budget, who said in a recording a couple of years ago that he wants to traumatize federal workers. Russ Vought. He wants federal workers every morning when they wake up and they're getting ready for work. He wants them to feel traumatized and have no idea whether or not they're going to be fired on any given day. Good evening, everybody. My name's Hawk. Thanks for coming back to my page. If you like this video, please click like, leave a comment, subscribe to my page. It's free. And let's dig into this. So this is original reporting today, May 22nd. From the website Talking Points Memo, which everyone should subscribe to, and everyone should, kick in whatever it is, the $5 or $8 a month to join. This Talking Points Memo is a website that is going to be indispensable to all of us during the next 3 years and 8 months. And this article was written by one of their reporters, a guy named Josh Kovensky, Kovennsky, who really does incredible reporting for Talking Points Memo. There's barely a day that goes by that I don't read Josh Kovensky. Same for Josh Marshall, the publisher of Talking Points Memo. So there's this Idaho pastor named Doug Wilson. He's bringing his church to D.C., and he has already met with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth in recent weeks, as well as Russell Vought. So Idaho pastor Doug Wilson can be provocative. He once said that slavery produced in the South a genuine affection between the races. However, he has also said that sodomy is worse than slavery, which is confusing if slavery produced a genuine affection between the races. I don't know. Abortion, he has written, is as great an evil as slavery. Go back to my last point. Due to what he sees as its ability to spark a civil war. Well, it didn't do that in the last election because a majority of white women voted for Donald Trump. He told Josh Kovensky last year that he regards the American state as the biggest blasphemer of them all, but his main goal is to remake the United States of America a Christianized America, one in which the government aggressively promotes and enacts the preferences of the evangelical right. Let's just contemplate that for a second. That would suck. Yeah, that would suck. Now, months into the second Trump administration, Wilson sees a unique opportunity. Last year, as Talking Points Memo first reported, he shared a stage with Russ Vought. Wilson told Kovensky this week that he recently met with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth while delivering a sermon at Hegseth's Tennessee, say that fast, Tennessee church. It's in Nashville. A video of the sermon shows the two shaking hands and talking. Asked about the meeting, which was previously not reported, a Pentagon spokesperson said that Secretary of Defense Hegseth is an admirer of Mr. Wilson. Wilson believes he has key allies atop and throughout the American government, and like many before him, is trying to secure access and influence to advance his ideas. To do that, Wilson is seeking to expand his religious empire, which is already capacious, there's the word for the day, capacious, into the nation's capital. He's launching a new church in Washington, D.C. this summer. God, these fucking people. At the same time, the Trump administration has begun to take actions that appear to benefit Pastor Wilson and his movement. On Tuesday, the DOJ Civil Rights Division sued an Idaho town for denying a land use permit for Wilson's church. So we've already got the quid pro quo going on. We've already got the white Christian nationalist quid pro quo going on with this administration. Hegseth held a prayer service in the Pentagon on Wednesday where he praised Trump as an instrument of God while standing alongside his own Nashville-based pastor, who himself is a longtime member of the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches, CREC, the movement which Pastor Wilson founded. The secretary is a proud member of a church affiliated with CREC, which was founded by Pastor Doug Wilson, said Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell when asked about it. The secretary very much appreciates many of Mr. Wilson's writings and teachings. I wonder if Pastor Wilson has written anything about adultery, alcoholism, or rape, because those would seem to be very much up Secretary Hegseth's alley. Hobnobbing with powerful conservatives isn't necessarily new for Wilson. His September 2023 speech alongside Russ Vought took place on Capitol Hill in the basement of an office building. It was dedicated to making the Christian case for immigration restriction, because who hated immigrants more than Jesus? Am I right? And it's like, I'm pretty sure that strong borders is one of the 10 commandments, and Jesus preached openly about, the importance of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. That speech was delivered as part of the Theology of American Statecraft series. What the fuck? Wilson spoke to Talking Points Memo this week about his plans to plant a church in D.C. That was first reported by Mother Jones. The church, he said, would serve as a hub for his brand of evangelicalism. A conservative from Idaho who's a white Christian nationalist. God, you know what, man? I got to say, I see people recovering Christians, recovering evangelicals, recovering Catholics on TikTok all the time. And I watch these folks' videos. I listen to the things that they have to say, the things that they went through when they were kids, and they didn't have any other choice but to go to these churches with their parents, and the fucking trauma that was caused to them. And I'm just incredibly grateful every single day that my parents didn't do that shit to me and my brother. Pastors from Wilson's Moscow, Idaho-based network would use fundraised money to fly to D.C. and preach to the congregation. Other pastors within Wilson's network, CREC, will also fly in from across the country. He envisions this as a part of a strategy to spread belief within the government. The Trump administration is full of evangelicals, meaning that they're what Wilson describes as culturally engaged, using their position to advocate for policies that many conservative evangelicals support. Keeping women in basements. We think that cultural engagement needs to be a theological foundation, and we're going to be seeking to provide that. These people just freak me the fuck out. It's like, who hurt you, dude? Who hurt you when you were a kid? This is how you turned out. Wow. Wilson told Talking Points member that he met Hegseth earlier this month during a sermon that he delivered at Pilgrim Hill Reformed Fellowship, a church outside of Nashville that Hegseth attends. Pilgrim Hill is small. It's new. It opened in 2021. Excuse me, and counts itself among Wilson's burgeoning CREC umbrella of churches. For Wilson, the D.C. church, CREC, and high-level connections to Hegseth and Vought are part of an expanding countercultural kingdom. There's a podcast platform, a college, a network of schools that offer classical education, and a publisher that recently printed a much-debated book on the online Christian right titled The Case for Christian Nationalism. The book rails against gynocracy, spelled G-Y-N. Gyno, like vaginocracy, legal gay marriage, and the end of limits on immigration by national origin. It calls for a measured and theocratic Caesarism. A Caesar. By all accounts, Hegseth is an enthusiastic member of the community that Wilson has helped forge. Because it's like he's an enthusiastic member. He's an integral part. He's cheated on every woman he's ever married. He's been married 3 times. He was accused of rape. There was a police report. He paid off the woman he's accused of raping, made her sign a non-disclosure agreement, and dozens of his former co-workers said he's a raging alcoholic who came to work drunk all the time. And he had to be at work at like 5 a.m. on a Saturday. These people have no standards whatsoever. Wilson told TPM that he's been visiting Pilgrim Hill Church for a conference that the church put on in early May. He portrayed the meeting with Hegseth and his wife Jennifer as a happenstance. I was invited to preach there. I bumped into them, yada, yada, yada. There may have been a threesome. I don't know. Julie Ingersoll, a professor at University of North Florida who has studied Wilson and the CREC movement, told Talking Points Memo that the movement requires its members to pass a theological grilling before joining. That means a check to make sure that lay members agree with the organization's beliefs, which include opposing female combat troops and believing that homosexuality is sinful. How many of these fucking guys have Grindr pages? Senators grilled Hegseth during his confirmation hearing over his statements on a podcast last year about not having women in combat. I don't think you can be a member of these churches and disagree on these positions, Wilson said. He denied to Talking Points Memo that he would use the D.C. church for partisan ends, saying that he intended to found the church to represent Christ, not Trump. He's not hanging out with any Democrats. Just saying. Still, Wilson sees the initiative as a huge opportunity he's visibly excited about. He titled a blog post announcing his D.C. church as a mission to Babylon, proposed a few biblical metaphors for the D.C. church project. One was rebuilding the walls of a ruined Jerusalem. Another was rebuilding the walls of Christendom. There it is, Christendom. The Crusades. And Pete Hegseth has a Crusades tattoo on his chest that's basically the size of a record album. Another was somewhat more aggressive. Perhaps the new task is more like an effort to bring Babylon into the new Jerusalem. During the sermon, he gave blah, 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 blah. He goes on to tell his followers that they are going to be in combat. They are engaged in spiritual warfare. He used the combat and warfare metaphors frequently, even though he looks like a guy who would struggle getting up off of the couch after polishing off a couple of Hot Pockets. But that's just me. That's neither here nor there. These fucking people, man, these white Christian nationalists who believe that they are ordained by God to turn the United States of America into an authoritarian theocracy, essentially with a monarch. And they really believe that Donald Trump, imperfect vessel that he is, has been chosen by God to lead them to do that. Can you even imagine how completely fucking broken your mind would have to be in order to believe that? I've been chosen by God to turn the United States of America into an authoritarian theocracy, and Donald Trump is our imperfect vessel who was also chosen by God to accomplish that. And accomplishing that in the United States of America is God's will. turning the United States of America into an authoritarian theocracy for white people, straight, white, Christian, Republican people. First of all, let's assume for a moment that they get their wish, and that the United States of America 30 days from now is populated by no one other than straight, white, married, Republican, hardcore evangelicals who are extremely happy with the United States of America being an authoritarian theocracy. There's no abortion anywhere for any reason. There's no birth control. There's no pornography. Masturbation is illegal. There are no video games. Every school is an evangelical madrasa. Can you even imagine just how boring that would be if those were the only people who lived in the United States? That would be so fucking boring. It would be maddening. And you know, I mean, and I've often said before, it's like there's a reason there's a reason why these folks point to the LGBTQ community and trans people indoctrinating our kids and labeling all of them and everybody on the left and Tom Hanks, you know, and George Soros as pedophiles. And there's a cabal, a child sex trafficking cabal. And it's because where do kids get raped the most? Church. I have used the line frequently that if kids got raped at Denny's as often as they do at church, it would be illegal to take kids to Denny's. But, you know, I mean, and again, let's assume that the United States is populated with nothing but these people, and Donald Trump was the ruler. Who would there be in that society to hold any of these people accountable for anything, for any law breaking whatsoever? Because, you know, I've read that they're fairly heavy into spousal abuse, maybe not as much as cops, and child sexual abuse. And goddamn if those youth pastors don't love marrying 15-year-olds because they were called by God to do so. Child marriage, there wouldn't be any statutes on child marriage. They would just, all these fucking 40-year-old perverts would be marrying 13-year-old girls. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's coming to our nation's capital. You know, I hear it's going to be super fun. And, you know, if you're into that kind of thing, Mr. Wilson will have a church in Washington, D.C. that you can attend. Apparently he'll be appearing regularly in Nashville, or you could always go to Idaho, where the town that he lives is curiously named Moscow. Oh, wow. That was a super fun episode. I hope everyone feels as uplifted as I do and hopeful for the future. Again, if you like this video, please click like, leave a comment, even if it's a shitty one that demonstrates a firm command on of the English language at the level of a 7-year-old, because that's how we spot you guys. Please subscribe to my page. It's free, and enjoy the rest of your evening.